I'm thinking back on all those times when I felt closed off from all that I could become. Eager but too scared to climb. Wanted to please my friends, but it felt like the end of myself. I was shut down and all drained out. I was lost, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. They think that I have lost my mind, that I'm not being true, but they don't have a clue. 'Cause this is me when I cut out all the shallowness and everything I suppressed to fit in a small frame. But I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. I'm gonna let them talk, but I ain't following nobody else. How can I be resentful when I finally respect myself? I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they're saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now.
Jen Silvernagle, we're talking about headphones and whatever. I'm sure that's a very enlightening conversation.
Yeah, that's what everybody needed to hear today.
That's right.
Earbuds versus headphones.
You got to have a good set of headphones. We have a really, really cool show for you today, and we're really going to focus around one thing. One thing, Jen. What are we going to focus on?
Marketing, Gary.
Marketing, knowing your brand, and why it's
Yes.
important to know your brand, and why it's important to know that message and have a message. So we have an awesome guest with us that specializes in that today, Mary Furnell. So Jen, let's run the intro, and we'll bring Mary on right away.
Sounds good. Gary, I can't hear you.
That's because for some reason it was muted. I have no idea. You should have heard what I said, though. I was
That was the
setting
best
this up.
nugget of the day. Yeah.
Exactly. I just explained why branding is so important, but now you'll never know.
Well, I mean, that's the magic of marketing right there.
That's right. Hey, here's the magic of marketing. You have to have a voice, and sometimes it
Yeah.
gets muted. All good. Well, what I was saying, Jen, why don't you bring on our guest, Mary Furnell, introduce her, and we'll get her on
Yeah.
screen right away because this is a topic that I know many agents fail at, but the best part is we have some awesome solutions for you right here.
Yeah, well, Mary Furnell is our guest, and for those of you that don't know, she is our in-house marketing and creative director. She does so much for the brokerage, so much for all the agents, but more importantly, she's just an amazing talent at creatively telling a story, and has a great skill at figuring out who you are and putting that brand to life in an image for you. And she's here today to talk to us about figuring out our value proposition and having that reflected in our brand and why that's important to our business. So, welcome, Mary. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is great. People are coming in my office and taking my attention away. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah, I saw
gotta
you
focus
talking
on
to someone.
branding.
I thought, did we lose Gary again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. No, this is important stuff, Mary, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because branding is often the last thing a business owner, and we are realtors, which means we are business owners, tend to think
That's
about.
right.
Mary, for those before we get into like the nit and gritty of everything, because I know that's where a lot of people want to go. But
Yeah.
let's talk about what you bring to the table, your background, and so forth. Who's Mary Furnell?
I just realized my glasses are okay. So I come from a corporate background. I worked as a senior financial analyst for many years. So I understand sort of the money side of business, but that's not the part that makes me happy. The creative and the marketing and the branding side really makes me happy. So I went back to school and figured out how to do that, how to turn that into a job. I worked for Johnson & Johnson for just under 10 years before they outsourced my job, and I started my own company and took the Johnson & Johnson contract with me, and then started to be able to work with other companies, which was amazing because I wasn't just sort of in that niche market anymore. I could work with anyone on anything. And through that, I ended up, through sort of a mutual connection, meeting Marvin, and came in and met with him, told him what I could do for the brokerage and what I could do for the individual realtors. And we just had anybody who sits down and talks with Marvin, he's just amazing, overwhelming, and just the best to talk to. Like literally, we were talking about our vision and what I could do and everything. And he's like, you're it, you're the person. And I'm like, you haven't looked at a single thing I've done. And he goes, I already know you're the person. So anyway, that was 6 years ago. And I'm still here, still creating new things, literally up to yesterday, rolling out new programs. So it's a lot of fun.
So that's awesome. Let me kind of give you the. Let me brag about Mary. Mary may not brag about herself, but let me brag about Mary. Mary, for the last, as you said, 6 years has been working within our brokerage to support our agents at Keller Williams in anything from obviously their branding, their identity, which we're going to talk about today specifically, but some of those other things that we kind of take for granted, like the feature sheets or to building websites and everything else in between. And her work, Mary, I got to tell you this, and I know I've said this before, but we have 200 plus agents, many of them work with you. And you would think you start to see the same branding with all of our agents because in one hand, it's one person doing it. I got to tell you, it looks so different from each agent to each agent. And I know that's because you spend a tremendous amount of time learning about them, their personality, and getting their thumbprint on it. So kudos to you for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
Yeah,
Very
part of
good.
my process is literally to sit down with each client and ask them about themselves, about their business, about who they are personally, and how they want to be seen in the marketplace. So I ask a whole bunch of questions. People say that it's like being in therapy when they're sitting with me, which is funny. But I'm basically taking a walk around in their brain, right? Because I need to get as much information as I can to visually represent them. Basically, anytime you leave a business card with somebody, whether they meet you or not, that card or your website or a brochure, whatever it is visually representing you. And that's not just with, it's not just, it's subconscious as well as conscious. So, the colors that are chosen, the fonts, the icons, everything is done strategically with a purpose to represent something. So that's why all the brands look different, because if you look at all of our realtors and their personalities and strengths and what they bring to the table, they're all individuals, right? Some of them don't know what their differentiator is, but after talking with them for like 10 minutes, I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So talk to us a little bit about, you know, why there's so many. I have so many questions, right? I got to do it
Okay.
in a systematical way so it makes sense, right? Jen knows I can just come out with all these amazing questions, but sometimes we gotta slow it down a little bit, Gare. Why does a brand matter so much? That's a loaded question, but I think it's one that we got to hit off right at the beginning of it.
Well, because there are tens of thousands of realtors in our area, all all looking to get the same business. So if you don't distinguish yourself as a realtor in that market, you're just one of a number.
One
Hmm.
out of a number.
Hmm.
Jen, follow up with that question. I can keep going if you want me to, but I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
hogging
yeah.
hogging the microphone.
No, all good. I
Mhm.
was I was just thinking back to the conversation we were having at our team meeting this week about knowing your unique value proposition, and tagging on to what Mary was saying with why having a brand is important is because it represents who you are, right? It represents the value that you bring. It represents yet the cohesiveness of your business as a whole. And Mary, I know that one of the questions that probably gets asked a lot is when you are building your brand, how much or how little should you do at the beginning, right? Like, do you do the whole thing? Do you just do the business cards? And what would your answer be to that? What would you be saying to agents in regard to telling that story and your value proposition?
Right. So I it also depends on the person. Some people feel if they're a new agent, they feel a little bit more comfortable leveraging the KW brand, which is
Mm-hmm.
totally fine. I have, I encourage that. If you're new, absolutely do that. But it also doesn't give you a chance to shine. And KW is different because they want their agents to shine individually. So if you feel comfortable and if you can take a bit of a risk, I encourage people to actually start building their own brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I
Go ahead, Jen.
No, sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say, going in line with that with coaching, we talk about that a lot as well. Why it's important to have your own vision and to stand out and to do something that helps people remember who you are and buy into what you're providing and the services. And I think the branding ties into that at a high level. And it also, you show
Absolutely.
up a certain way, you look a certain way, you have a cohesive message. There's a lot of importance behind that, right? So,
It's
yeah, go ahead.
perceived
Sorry, Gary.
value, right? So people
Mhm.
can see if you've spent time building a brand and creating a look, people look at it and say, that mattered to that person. It should matter to me as well. And that's a subconscious thing. It's not necessary, they're not
Mm.
necessarily thinking that thought exactly, but they can see that time and effort went into it and it comes across as professional and trustworthy and has some quality, right?
Yeah,
Perceived
I
value.
love that.
That's huge. Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. You said it. That nailed it. That's so good.
Well, it's no
That's why
different
when
too,
you were
Jen.
talking during the team meeting, I was like in the comments, I'm like, yes, yes, sing it. This is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and in the pre-show, Mary, the three of us were kind of chatting. Having a brand is important. It's one thing though to have a brand and to have a message, but that message needs to get defined, right?
Yes.
And how do you help our agents create that message and audience? What is it like? What does that look like? Why is that important?
So that's where we start to talk about target market. And that's where every single company, every business struggles with target market, from the biggest corporations to the single sole proprietor. It is difficult because in your mind, it sounds like you're saying, well, I'm not interested in that client. And that's really not what it is. When you define your target market, you are saying, this is the piece of the pie that I'm going for. These are the people that gravitate to me and that I can build relationships with. So let's say you're talking about a bigger company. Okay, here's an example. Estee Lauder, right? For those of you, it's like your grandmother's makeup company, right? Or your grandmother's White Diamonds perfume, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Estee Lauder is a company that does makeup and beauty products and stuff like that. They started to think we need to start appealing to people in a younger demographic, as our demographic is starting to age out. So they came up with a new line of product, but they didn't market it as Estee Lauder. They marketed it as MAC Cosmetics. Estee Lauder literally owns MAC Cosmetics. And young people strive to wear MAC makeup, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's take another example. Digital photography, right? You want to know the company that came up with the first digital camera? Kodak. What's Kodak known for? Film.
Polaroid. Yeah. Polaroids and
They're known for film. But they marketed their digital camera as a Kodak product. So they were first to market, which is great, but they didn't create a new brand for their other product, which made it fail. It's such a simple thing, but they thought everybody believes in Kodak so much, but they marry Kodak with film, and it didn't work. So, and nobody knows that, yeah, right? So for when you're thinking about brands and about target market, you have to make sure that you are creating the message and the brand around the market and the business that you're trying to get. So let's say you've got a realtor who has a really, really strong residential brand who wants to go into commercial. My suggestion would be to create another brand that works in the commercial market, right? Because people on the commercial side are going to see residential and they're like, yeah, you're not my person, right? There's nothing wrong with having two different business cards and two different brands. You can have parallel websites and all of that so that your information is targeted at the customer that you're going at, right? It's a simple thing, but people think, ooh, that's going to be difficult. No, it's not, because you don't talk to a homeowner the same way that you would talk to a commercial client. It's a completely different thing. So why would you be approaching the market in the same way? Right?
Yeah. I
Gary
mean, that's
bailed.
a great point. Yeah, Gary's like, my mind is blown. I gotta go.
So, I'm hearing you. I hear you. I went to go grab this. So years ago, and as Jen has done on many years, we would go to KW family reunion, and I'd go with my business card and think to myself, nobody knows, because we're meeting 17, 20,000 other people. No one knows what this business card says other than my name and blah, blah, blah. And that's about it. And what differentiates us at Family Reunion, Jen, is we're from Canada. Because 95% of the people there, attendees there, are from the United States. And then last year, as many of you know, here's a shameless plug, Jen, so I apologize in advance. A lot of you know I host another podcast, the Not So Black and White Real Estate podcast. So what did I do? I went and created business cards specifically for that. It works, Mary. Like anyone
100% works.
You need to like almost put your different business services in different columns if it's that far apart from each other, right? You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
And I want to point out that was really strategic because Gary and Colin are shooting their first episode on Thursday for this new season, and he just happened to bring it up today.
I love it. I love it. Take advantage and throw your
I'm just
brand
going to
out
start
there
holding this
anytime
up
you
like
get.
this.
Yeah, just hold it the whole time. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
So-
even when I was just going to say, even when I was building the brand for the coaching program, Mary was the person that helped me with all of that. And we had many conversations around what do we want that image to look like? What type of coaching is it going to be? How do we want the visual to show? And, for me, I was like, I have no idea what I want this to look like. And, she was great at taking what I was saying and turning it into an image and bringing it back to me for me to then say, I like that. I don't like that, and I think in the end, there was actually 3 that we really liked. It could have gone any one of those 3 ways and it would have been great. But one of the things I get commented on the most,
this one feels the most like me.
Yeah. And I get comments on it all the time, how great the logo is and how good it looks, the coloring, all of it, how it's a specific brand. It's a specific company, right? And it stands out and people recognize it. So it's an interesting process.
It was done with thought behind it. It wasn't just like, ooh, I like that. No, it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
So much more than that.
Yeah.
And your brand should also build your self-confidence. Like you should be excited to share it and show it to the world. It literally energizes you when your brand is reflective of you, right?
Absolutely.
But dovetailing back to target market, your brand will also appeal to the target market that you're going after because it was built for those people. So one of the things I talk about with realtors is I explain you got sort of on one side of the spectrum, you've got like the sharks who literally, it's all business. It's none of the human hand-holding side. And literally way over on the other side of the spectrum, it is the people who handhold and basically carry their clients through the sale or the buying process. And, it's much more human. It's much more supportive and don't worry, you're not alone kind of thing, right? And then there's everybody in between. So if I branded one of those shark type people with sort of pastel or warm, touchy feely kind of colors, you would literally look at that and be like, that's not my person before you even talk to them, right? Or if there was like a heart or some sort of, their icon was a heart or like a teddy bear or something, like it doesn't measure up, right?
Yeah.
So
there's a disconnect.
Right. So the target market that you're going for is not, the brand isn't going to appeal to them and therefore it's never going to work. So it's done strategically. And I also, when I talk to my clients, I literally ask them what their strengths are and what their differentiator is, that sort of thing. And then I ask them, what have their testimonials been like? What do people say about working with you? Do they say, you're the fun person that puts everybody at ease, or are you the person that's like the A-type personality that gets things done, before anybody expects it? Like, where are you? And I make sure that what they think about themselves and how other people perceive them balance out. because as soon as it doesn't balance out, that creates mistrust, and we don't want that. So we want to make sure that your brand is literally reflective of you, because as soon as it's not, it fails.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So talk to us a little bit about how the brand that we create, or the one that we want to promote, how does that relate to the niche that I want to work with? Because that's a big messaging within that, right?
Huge. It's huge. So we want to make sure that your brand is memorable to the people that you want it to appeal to, and that it fits with them, right? So let's say somebody is aiming at sort of the townhouse market in Newmarket. They want to work with new buyers. They want to, it's that type of a thing. People that don't have a lot of money, that are looking to get started, that's your target market. Perfect. If they come to me and say, that's my target market, but I want to go with a luxury look, right? I want it to look really high end. The people who are in the market that they're looking to appeal to are going to feel that agent is out of their grasp. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to feel like it's more than what I need, and it's more than what I can afford, right? So it's not going to appeal to them. You have to have your target market completely figured out, and then create the brand that is going to resonate with them, right? And that's a science.
It is a science. It's interesting too, and I think it's all about how we talk about our own brand, for instance.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to somebody maybe 4 or 5 years ago, mentioned what I did and the brokerage I work for, and the comment was, "Oh, you must do a lot of luxury listings. Isn't KW a luxury brokerage?" And that was the messaging at some time along the path that they thought and that they got, right? And of course, we're brokers that does everything from little condos to land developments, right? And everything in between. But at some point along the way, somebody's brand and messaging got in front of them, and that's what they heard.
That's what stuck.
And my point is, that's how powerful a brand and message can be, right?
Yeah, and especially with KW being fairly new. I mean, we're established now in the areas that we work in, but when KW was fairly new, no one knew what it was. So if somebody saw something, somebody I know that has a lot of money used KW, well, that's luxury.
Right.
But that's why we have KW luxury. That's why we have KW commercial. That's why we have KW, because the markets are so different.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What? Because you and I will send stuff back and forth every now and then, especially when we're in the office. We'd be like, "Have you seen this advertisement? It's terrible." So let's have some fun here. Like, what are some of those clear mistakes that you see a lot of people doing that just with a quick tweak, or of course, using you as an advisor, can just eliminate? Like, what are those common mistakes you see happening?
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, people in the office bring me bad branding just to watch my reaction, because it makes me nuts. It really drives me crazy. So, you are putting me on the spot here.
And so let me help. Like, sometimes it's the font, or the size of the font, or the images. Like,
or
we all know that
images, messages that are on there, where it's just like, you're like, I don't even know where to look at what you're trying to say here. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So like, we don't have to use every square inch of the page.
And there are people that feel the need, right? They go with like 7-point font, and they want to just fill everything up. Yeah.
And as many fonts as they can possibly use, and everything highlighted.
That's what I was gonna go with. That's what drives me crazy, is multiple fonts like that don't make sense. I never get that.
Right.
Like, what were you going for with this?
Which is why when I create a brand, I suggest the font that they should use, and I sort of reinforce this is your brand. Like the more you change it, the more you adapt it and bring new things in, the more you're watering it down. Like consistent, clear messages always reinforce the brand rather than taking away from it. And I'm happy to provide like templates to start with and everything else so that consistency remains the same.
Yeah. And you do a lot of that. As we kind of said as we led off, you work with agents to create, their listing package, to their brochure, to their postcards, their mail outs, and of course their online media, if you will. There's a lot that you do, but it really you really focuses in on the brand for the people that just want to come and, hey, I need this created. Well, that's great, but let's have that branding conversation, because that's
right. Let's
that's
make
the
sure
important piece of it. That's the foundation of it, right?
Yes, because then you're missing opportunities to reinforce your brand. So if your sign doesn't look like your website, doesn't look like your business card, nobody's ever putting all of it together. So your brand isn't memorable. You're not winning the hearts and minds of your clients or potential clients. You're just one of a bunch.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's
and
a great way.
a thing. That's a part that makes KW different. Like when you receive Remax stuff, the focus is on Remax. It's not on the agent, right? Same thing with LePage. They have a look, the corporate look that they go with. But KW lets you brand yourself, which in the stack of stuff that comes in your mail, the KW stuff always stands out because it's different.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's gold, because it's different.
Yeah, that's
it really
gold.
is. And Jen and I often talk about this. KW focuses less on the brand, as we all know, and it's the agent is the center of the business, right? And everything that we can do to support the agent to grow their business, allow them to flourish and provide opportunity. That's what it's all about. Jen, one last,
what it's all about.
Perfect. Okay, one last question for Mary, and then I'm going to segue into something that's incredibly important to Mary and to us as the brokers too here. What do you got for her?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think my final question would be, when somebody has a vision of who they want to be as an agent, and they've gone through that first process, and they've got their target market, and they've got the concept of their brand. How do you take that look and that logo and that website and all of that and present it in a way that it makes sense to the seller, so that how do you use it to enhance the brand when you're sitting at the table with the client? What's the way to present it best, based on the visuals of it? Is it what you bring? Is it the pieces you bring? Is it, showing samples? Like, how would you recommend promoting your brand once you've developed your brand?
It's all of it. It's the entire package. So if you can bring previous feature sheets that you've used and have, whether screenshots or show online how the properties have been marketed by you, and when it's all consistent and it's all really high level and quality, that's, people are going to say, wow, I want that. As an example, one team, I don't know if you want me to mention which teams, but there are certain teams that put a lot of effort into their feature sheets, and they make sure that they literally stand out. And when you take a step back, think about who is receiving those feature sheets. There are people that already have an agent who they may or may not be happy with. People who are looking for homes that may or may not have an agent. You've got like so much opportunity. There's also the friends and the network of the people who have that page, who are gonna, do they know somebody? Are they related to somebody, friends with somebody who's thinking about buying or selling? And if your marketing pieces are different, really high quality, and remarkable, those are the ones that are going to be passed on, that people are going to look at and go, wow, I want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want that for me. So don't just think of your feature sheet as marketing for the home. It's also marketing your business as well. And you should carve out a little space in there to promote yourself, right? Because you never know
Mm-hmm.
whose hands that's going to get into, right? And who that person knows. And if it's high quality, if it feels good, if it's, time and effort went into it, again, perceived value, and people are going to say, that's the person I want, right? If this person
Mm-hmm.
puts this much time and effort into this piece, I want that person on my side.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Does that
I
answer
love
the
that. I
question?
love that. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. It
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
does. Yeah.
Well, every moment is not only a marketing opportunity, but it's also a relationship building opportunity, right? I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
really what we're talking about is
Mm-hmm.
tools to create that relationship and deepen a relationship. So this is great. So I know Mary, Mary
Wait,
does a lot
just
for
one
our
more thing. I'm
yeah.
so sorry. I could talk about this stuff forever. But if you don't have at the top of your mind all the time what your differentiator is, what your difference is, and why a client should go with you, you need to think about that and be able to literally spew that out as soon as you can, as soon as any opportunity comes. We call it in the business an elevator speech. If you are in
Mm.
an elevator, you have 2 to 3 minutes with a person. Are you able to sell yourself in that amount of time, giving that person the concise information that they need to hire you on the spot then, right? And if you don't, you should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
You
100%.
never
Yeah.
know when that, it could be even in line grabbing a coffee. Somebody says, hey, what do you do? I'm a realtor. Oh, yeah, I do this, this, and this, and this. You never know who that person knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some
Yeah.
people don't feel comfortable promoting themselves outwardly like that. If you have practiced that elevator speech, you're going to be ready to deliver it no matter what environment you're in. And especially if it's who you are and what you believe in and the business that you're creating and you live that every day, it's so easy to just say it because you're aware of it, right? It's
Yeah.
a process that you went through and that you believe in, and it comes more naturally.
And I think that hits it on the head is that you believe in it. And it's
Yeah.
easy to talk highly and strongly and with conviction about something that you truly believe in, right? And when you truly
Yeah.
believe you're the best realtor for that person, you're the best person to take care of them, to do the job, to get the result, you can speak to
Mhm.
that at a high level easily. And it's how you present it that convinces people. It's not necessarily
With
the
passion
words,
and
right?
conviction, right? And
Yeah,
confidence.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things I love that you said too, just to cap it off, I guess, is that we talk a lot in coaching about creating your wow moments with your clients. That's where your
Yeah.
referrals come from. That's where you have that impact from being just another realtor to being the realtor, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things you said was what when they look at that branding, they go, wow, that they see that it's high level, that you put the time in. And, I love that you said that. I was hoping you would because it just leads to that idea of like your branding, your feature sheet, your presentation can be a wow moment for your clients, right? And
Yeah.
that alone will build more referrals and increase your business and add to your value prop. How you show up is a part of that. It's a part of your brand, right? So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you said that little wow. I was like, yes. Yeah.
Very good. So we got about a minute or 2 minutes to go here, Mary. And as I was saying, Mary does a lot for our brokers from a branding and marketing perspective, supporting our agents there. One of the other really cool things that she does that she's incredibly passionate about is not only our realtor safety, but just as important as that, I would say, is the wellness, of ourselves, our mind, our body. Talked about the new initiative that we're just rolling out, Mary, with KWRC Wellness. I love it.
Right. So Stephanie came to me with the idea of creating a KWRC wellness program. And I was like, wow, like we need to do this yesterday kind of thing. So I spent the entire weekend putting together a program for us, and it just grew and grew, and she threw in ideas and I was throwing in ideas, and all of a sudden it's here. I've rolled it out now online on our social media, on my KWRC as well. And I created a logo, the brand that highlights the 5 elements of wellness. And it's all, I'm not going to go into all of it here. You guys can go to my KWRC/wellness and get that information. But what we're doing is every month we're going to highlight one of the 5 elements. So for April, we're going to do the physical element. So I have come up with the program Step Into April. So what we're going to do is, if everybody can register online there's the link at mykwrc.ca/wellness. If you click on, thank you. Then you can, now I know why you like what I do. It's good.
Right.
So if you go there, also to register for Step Into April, that's mykwrc.ca/step. And you can go then and register it's a third-party site, but basically all of our steps, you input your steps every day, and all of our steps are going to roll up into a grand total as a brokerage, what we've done. And it's going to hopefully get everybody, whether walking or running, to mindfully get a little bit more active. We're coming into summer, springtime. The weather is getting much better. It's great to get outside and get some fresh air. And even when I don't know if we're allowed to door knock now, but if you're walking around your neighborhood, whatever, you never know who you're going to run into. And you're also getting a little bit of exercise, which is great.
Well, you'd be happy to know that of the few people that are in the office today, that happened today. People went outside and went for their walk. So it's working,
Perfect.
Mary. It's working. It's just now we got to get that news out there, that message out there. Yeah. This is the month where we need to move. And, we got to take care of our mind, our body, and spiritual and everything else. And it's important, right, for mindset and business growth and just all around happiness.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so if everybody can take some time and go on to my kwrc.ca/wellness and just look what the program's about and what we're going to do, and hopefully we'll get some good traction and get everybody on the road to being super well.
Super well. That's amazing.
Super well.
I'm gonna shift over here. That's your website. So if you wanted to get a hold of Mary, please do so through that. That's probably the easiest way to do that. Mary, always a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you. Mary does a lot of the behind the scenes work, obviously at our brokers from that perspective of all the brokers materials that go out. But even for this show here, she does a lot of the behind the scenes and getting it onto your podcast, Player of Choice. See, I got it in this time without messing it up. Yes. She does that and a lot of other things. So, Mary, we appreciate you. Thank you for supporting our agents and helping them to step out from the crowd. I know that our agents, they enjoy working with you. And if you haven't, go talk to Mary. And if you're not with our brokerage and you want to talk to Mary, talk to Jen and I first. We'll make something happen. But Mary works for our agents, and that is the one cool benefit that our agents have. So fantastic, Mary. All the best to you in the future.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Very good. Very, very good. Well, I love having that conversation because we often talk, Jen, about real estate is a business. And knowing your brand, knowing your niche, knowing your message, it's all about business, right?
Yeah. I love it. And she's so purposeful about it, so knowledgeable about it that, she has such clarity around what it could look like and how you can roll it out, that it's always a great conversation to have with any agent about what their business looks like and how they're positioning themselves against their competition, right? What does make them stand out? And what are you doing to be different? Because if you're going up with 4 or 5 other agents and someone asks you what makes you different than the other agents, and that question gets asked a lot now at presentations, what's your answer? Because if it's, well, I have a good marketing plan and I use Facebook, and so does everybody else, right? And if it's that you're just an expert in the neighborhood, well, so are most other people at this point, because the data is so readily available, right? So you have to have that next level differentiator that allows you to stand above the crowd and go, this is why you need to pick me. And a big part of that is your belief in your own business, or your belief in your brand and your presentation of that. And I think it's important to have that conversation and to be conscious of it. Right?
Yeah, you reminded me of something. We'll kind of end with this because we're going a little bit longer than we anticipated. A lot of people, when we ask that question, Jen, what is your brand? And a lot of times the answer is, well, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not really a definitive answer, because how do you leverage that? How do you replicate that, right? What's the growth of that? And there's some stats out there, and I remember these stats coming in at family reunion, KW family reunion about a month ago, and they were talking about back in the 50s, it was like 85% of the time you would use that same realtor throughout your entire lifetime, right? Which means you didn't have to do a lot of marketing. You just have to pick up the phone every now and then. And over years, that has shrunk, right? So if you think the loyalty of that customer is as strong as it ever has been, it's the absolute opposite. So it's important to have a strong brand, strong message, and talking to your client base, your database continually. I think that's a great spot to end there, Jen.
I love it. I agree.
I agree. Very good. So that's another episode of KWRC TV. Thank you to Mary Furnell for being online with us. Do check out her website, and especially if you're with KW, reach out to her. If you're not, reach out to Jen and I. We're happy to have that conversation. And that's it for us. So for Jen Silbernagel, I'm Gary McGowan. Have a wonderful, wonderful, warm, sunny day. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.